Hello and welcome to episode 8. That's right, the final episode of season 1 of the Car Biz Chronicles. It has been a tremendous journey. I want to thank everyone who's been involved, but most of all, I want to thank all of you who have engaged this kind of side project idea we came up with, and it's really taken off. So much so that we are going to work on a season 2 for you. That's right, announcing it right now for you. We're going to be working on a season 2, and I'm hoping to bring even more value. We're going to look for even deeper topics, build off what we've done here, and use your feedback to try and make this an even better second season. But let's get to the task at hand, which is the final episode. I saved this episode specifically because it was a one-on-one with myself and Erick Kirks of the Johnson Automotive Group in North Carolina. And I have to tell you, this guy gets it. On all levels, whether it's marketing, selling cars, dealing with vendors, dealing with managers, dealing with people, whatever it is, this guy gets it. So I don't have a lot more to tell you about it because it's really a cool one-on-one with him and me, and it's just, the topics range all over the place. But it's about the energy this guy brings and the knowledge he brings that really, really blew me away. So again, thank you all for engaging. I hope you enjoy this final episode. And as always, let us know what you think, and we'll see you for season 2. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Car Biz Chronicles. Once again, live from Raleigh, North Carolina, in the offices of Reunion Marketing. I am Sean Welsh, your host. I am joined today by Erick Kirks of Johnson Automotive right here in the North Carolina area. Erick, thanks for coming on. How about a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, definitely, Sean. Thanks for having me. Erick Kirks, Marketing Director with Johnson Automotive. I'm one of the few Raleigh natives you'll run into around here.
Okay.
Born and raised here, and I've been working around the car business pretty much all of my life. Helped my dad flip used cars out of the driveway growing up, and so we used to go out and buy hoopties and fix them up a little bit and flip them and make some money.
Curb deals.
And so I always had a passion for automotive and working around that. I started my retail career during college. Dealership down in Wilmington, North Carolina, which shout out to all of my friends down in Wilmington. Hope everybody's recovering from the hurricane.
Absolutely.
Started washing cars on the wash rack for like $3.85 an hour after class, and this was '93, and just loved it. I mean, absolutely loved it. So worked my way into learning how to do full recon, and built out a recon department. So at the time, the dealership outsourced all of their recon work. I sort of formulated a way we could bring it in-house, save money, reutilize some of the space with fixed ops in the body shop, and kind of turned it into a profitable department. So by the time I was a couple years into college, between classes, I was back and forth at the dealership, kind of managing the recon department, and then go back to class, and then come back, and it was just sort of an all-day deal. So by the time I graduated in '96, I was made used car manager.
Nice.
And so that was sort of an interesting thing, being fresh out of college. I went to school for marketing, becoming a used car manager, getting paid a percentage of the bottom line. 21 years old, demos.
Start asking yourself why you went to college.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of sweet. You're living down at the beach.
Yeah.
But this was '96. This was when automotive and the internet were
colliding.
Certainly getting ready to have some exciting things happen. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so outside of, having one of the first automotive dealership websites in Wilmington, that was about the extent of how far I could reach, down there.
Yeah.
And so made a decision, sold everything I had, shipped my Jeep out to California, and went searching for startups to work with. And it was all happening out there. So took off, headed out there, cashed out my 401k to live off of. My girlfriend and I took off, moved out there together, and I was a big skateboarder growing up, like all my life, and so for the first 6 months I skateboarded.
Sure. You're in California in the 90s, man. I mean, come on, it's Tony Hawk in the height.
Well, I unloaded the truck, and this guy was like, hey, there's a skate park right down the street, and I'm like, got the rest of the stuff off the truck, skated for 6 months. Meanwhile, my girlfriend, she got a job at a temp agency, and we're kind of running out of my 401k money, and
Sure.
she's like, dude, it's time to move job. So there's a couple of sketchy automotive startups coming out at that time, and some of the early guys from Autoweb, this was they were one of the very first third-party players, and they had already, some of these guys had already cashed out by then.
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so I went to work for this company that was based out of Boston, and but their headquarters and their sort of launch pad was in Hollywood. Well, I'm straight country gone city, right? Like, I grew up here in Raleigh. It took me a good month to be comfortable driving in LA at all.
Sure.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And once I got used to that, just getting in the left lane and just going as fast as I could, and be all right. I went to work with these guys, and the company's goal was to sort of form this hub of all of the technology companies that were going to transform automotive.
Okay.
And so there weren't a whole lot of them
No.
But there were some good ideas. They just hadn't really been hashed out yet.
Right.
But what my role with the company was going to be was internet department training. So they had seen from selling leads, dealers wanted to buy leads, but they didn't know what to do with them.
Agreed.
So they would take the guy that maybe had a Hotmail address or something and be like, he's internet savvy. Let's give him all the internet leads.
Hotmail was
right. Like,
clearly or mid NINEties. Clearly mid '90s.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm clearly dating
I get it. Yeah, that's
but
good.
But it was crazy.
Yeah.
So
No,
we're in LA, huge automotive markets. There's savvy dealers out there that get it. They're all very competitive, as we all know, and so they were hungry for this training, but nobody had done it yet. So we were sort of writing it, and they literally. So we're in this little sketchy office in the Taft building in Hollywood.
Yep.
So I live out kind of in the north of the valley, kind of in the country of California, if you can believe that, where the orchards are. And so I would commute into Hollywood about an hour and a half and go up the Taft building in West Hollywood is a historic building. Lots of, famous people have had offices there and stuff. But anyway, go up there, there's this little room about this big, and they hand me a phone book. Remember those phone books?
Yeah, man.
This huge phone book.
That's what I got handed my first day of selling cars in 1998, so I could cold call.
Okay, so same thing. They're like, here's a phone book. Get us some dealers. We need dealers to train. So I'm like, all right. So I'm doing that, and then one day I go down the hall. We had a shared bathroom in this hallway. I walk down the hall, and I come back, and there's this, this moaning and all this stuff going on. And I go by this, and there's this door cracked open, and they're shooting a porno 3 doors down from our office. And I'm like,
Hollywood, man.
In Hollywood, man, this is it.
That's it.
And so again, it's a little culture shock for me. But long story short is, that was I moved on from that. That company wasn't really going anywhere, and I got involved with Internet Brands, which started out as Cars Direct. So this was Scott Painter's first sort of foray into automotive, and one of the very early hires with them. At the time we were in the Autoland building in Sherman Oaks, and the company had just started. We had at this point we had
getting interrupted here. This happens.
I can't help
this
it.
happens. I know you are. She just likes to pop up once in a while. All right, go back to bed.
So we had just started out. We were figuring things out. We were expanding nationally at this point, and so I got assigned the southern area, and my job was to call dealers and basically let them know that we had a customer on our website that wanted to buy the kind of car that they sold. They lived in their market, and I needed the car. And of course, the dealer's like, "Well, what are you talking about? Like, it's my market. I'm the dealer.
It's
my
car.
customer.
Yeah.
I got the car. It's my customer." And so we had to sort of explain to them this concept of online brokering. That's essentially what we were doing.
Right.
And
that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. And so the first lead we get for BFE Alabama, that dealer's never heard of us. Somehow the customer found us, but they've never heard of us or the concept. And my job was to explain to them our model and how we would still facilitate the transaction through the dealer, but we were gonna sell the car. It was our customer.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
It's our customer.
Yeah, it was fun. So
it's our customer.
But we were scaling like crazy. We were blowing up, and so through that, transitioned through several different roles within the company, eventually moving into dealer relations, and that was sort of my sweet spot because I had a retail background. At this point, you know, I had a sales background, and so I understood both sides of the challenges that a dealer has in handling internet and then handling vendors.
I mean, again, you're talking 97, 98, 99. I mean, we were dealing with faxed internet leads. I remember coming in on Monday mornings to the floor just covered in the finance department from faxed internet leads.
Right.
No CRM, a spreadsheet. I mean, I know it sounds dated, but I mean, these are the things that were happening when the internet exploded.
Yeah, and
right?
you know, and what was crazy about it is that dealers, you know, I'm a dealer now. Like I'm on, you know, I'm part of the dealer body now. We let it all happen. You know, we let it all happen.
Oh, we did it to ourselves.
Yeah,
we did it to ourselves. I mean, we've learned very little. If you look at it, and we're going to talk about a lot of that. We've learned very little since 98, 99.
Yeah, it's been,
20 years later, we still don't know.
It's been interesting to see because we're sort of in the middle of several newer generations of automotive professionals coming into positions of influence within the dealership. But you still got a lot of old school in there.
You do.
And even if they're not true old school, they were trained by old school.
Correct.
So you're in this flux of almost having, like, I'm a Gen X. So, you know, my 4-year-old, when she was 4, now she's 12, but when she was 4, she could outmaneuver me on my phone, on my iPad, and everything else. Because that's all she knew. Like, I had to learn how to use the stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of the same way with automotive. Like, you know, people are having to learn how to appease the old way a customer wants to buy a car, and then also provide them with the
Keep
new
up
way.
the new way.
Yeah, and it is hard, no doubt.
And I think that's a lot of what you kind of talked about off air, and you kind of wanted to kick it off with a little bit of a history, a little bit of a story that kind of impacts you. So why don't we get into that and talk about kind of, as the beginning of your discussion, what that, how that story kind of ties into today and the consumers.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I think the one thing that automotive dealers have always tried to accomplish is figuring out a way to differentiate themselves. And, you know, back in the day, it might be a catchy radio commercial, or, you know, some guys still dress up like goofball superheroes on TV and try to spend a lot of money on TV ads.
Yeah.
And those things work for some customers in some markets and things, but ultimately, you know, you got to find a way to differentiate yourself, because especially today, I feel like, you know, you can't pick on the Yugos back in the day. You know, we in fact, one of the dealer groups I work with, they were a Yugo dealer, and at the end, it was a buy one get one free sale to phase out their inventory, or it was a buy this Suburban or buy this truck and get a free Yugo.
Sure.
And so cars were actually that bad that you had to give them away back then. It's just not like that anymore. Everybody's got awesome cars, the latest technology. The cars are beautiful. They're reliable. They've got great warranties. They've got great support at the dealer level. So how does a dealer differentiate themselves from their competitors, from their other brands in their market? And I love a friend of mine, Stan Phelps, wrote a book that I've read several times called Purple Goldfish. And the concept behind Purple Goldfish, it involves this word called lanyap. And lanyap is the definition of lanyap is like an extra little gift or a bonus offer. And it dates back to the early settlement days of Louisiana, where the Spanish Creoles sort of translated this word into Louisiana French, and lanyap is this word, and it's still very evident in New Orleans and in Louisiana today. When you go to restaurants, a lot of times there's a little extra something they give you, or different merchants will give you a little something free when you check out. But that's the whole concept, and you see it throughout all industries now. In automotive, we at some of our dealerships, you buy a car, you get a golf umbrella, or you get some other a bottle of wine, or some special gift.
But it's not talked about in the front half, right? It's not the reason to buy the car. No. It's not this incentive where we're giving away tours. You know what I mean? This isn't that sale.
Right.
This is not that. Mm-hmm. This is a thank you, a true thank you for doing business with your group.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a come in today to get in the drawing for a TV or something like that.
Exactly.
Get a TV with a car. So none of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's an unannounced, unexpected bonus or gift at the end. And there's lots of opportunities throughout the retail and the ownership experience to provide that. I mean, it could be a bottle of water in the car when you pick it up from service, or a cookie. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I mean, there's companies that have been built around providing lanyard.
Yeah.
They just may not have called it that.
Right.
But it really struck me, and we're always looking for ways as dealers to differentiate ourselves. And I think that's just one of the biggest value adds. Because again, if your customers in the marketplace, they have so many great selections, they have, so many different great vehicles to choose from. Why should they buy from you? Why should they buy your brand? And you really need to be successful, you need to make it about more than just the car. And I'm not saying that a golf umbrella makes the difference, but that's an example of a way that a dealer can step up above and beyond the normal. And then if you can spread that thought process and that throughout your culture, then everybody within the dealership will think that way.
Yes.
And it will become, a visit to parts for a customer to buy a part.
End up in a keychain. I don't know.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Doesn't
there's
matter.
so many things.
But your point is, what I like about it is that it's above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't an incentive to close a deal.
Correct.
It is about what we do because we care and it's unexpected and you appreciate that. But then the customer, they may come to expect it, right? They may say, hey, next time I buy a car at Johnson, I hope I get, golf, whatever. You guys are very consistent in that with what you do. Is it all brands will be a part of the?
It varies actually.
The token,
varies.
okay.
Yeah, and we struggle with that a little bit just because we want to provide something that's of value, right? It's
Sure.
not just something that they're going to throw on a table and never look at again or use
Sure.
again. And so we're very conscious about that, and it's really become more difficult as we're in a fortunate position where our stores have grown just exponentially in
Right.
volume and retention. And so with that, the diversity of our customer base has grown as well. So we're looking at ways we can actually, we're focused on really making it about more than just transportation. And I'll throw one example out there right now is we're a big sponsor with DPAC, which is the Durham Performing Arts Center. It's one of the top 5 Broadway venues in the country.
Okay.
It's here in Durham, and we partnered with them as part of a sort of their season ticket package. So it's called the Johnson Lexus President's Club. So they have their own lounge to wait at before shows. They have their own bar, private area, private bathrooms.
That sounds nice.
And just fantastic seats.
That sounds nice.
Well, Hamilton's here this year. It's coming next month. And so the Hamilton tickets are virtually impossible to get. And I took some proactive efforts to make sure we had some. And so we're calling some of our most valuable guests that have been with us for so many years that we think would enjoy the show. And we're just, hey, you want to go to Hamilton? And they're blown away because...
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I'm not even a fan of Hamilton. I'm not one of your customers. But I'm blown away that you even take that approach. Can you take me through, though, how does one decide the value of a customer in your eyes? How are you doing it? Are you doing it in duration, number of trades, dollars and cents? I mean, and if you don't want to say, you don't have to say it, it's fine. If you're looking at me like,
I'll say
you know
it.
what, I don't want to share this. But
I can tell you that we have spent years and we're still developing
the process.
You can't award a point to dollar ratio because
it had nothing to do with them.
We have customers that have literally referred dozens of other customers to us. So, but that's not calculated in DMS or
Yeah, where's that at? Where's that in the
or
point
CRM.
system? Yeah.
So how do you do it? So there's really almost an algorithm that we've built to help us. I don't want to say rank, but identify the real the brand ambassadors, and that's what we need to try to accomplish, creating as many brand ambassadors for our
Because this person gets the tickets from you, they go to Hamilton, they take some picture, it goes on social media, you hope they tag where they got the tickets, you hope someone makes it relevant, and then next thing you know, there's like this social wildfire that had nothing to do with you, except you paid attention to your customer.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
I mean, here's the thing: is like and again, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're talking about Lexus, right? It doesn't matter what brand it is. Everybody that buys a car from you most likely has friends, okay? And most likely they do something with their friends sometimes. So they're sitting around having dinner, and they're like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to a show, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. Oh, really? Well, how'd you work that out? Well, Johnson Lexus gave us tickets. Well, they got a BMW, or they got some other brand. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, yeah, we get stuff from them all the time. You just call and say, hey, you want to do this, you want to do that? And we're always like, yeah. Well, hopefully that will rub off on this person that maybe they're a huge fan of BMW and they're great cars, but maybe it becomes, they start thinking about more than the transportation. And
that's what you said to start this off with. You said you guys are trying to go beyond the car, beyond the transportation, into the relationship. When you said your retention is up, how does your dealership group measure that? How do you say, you said it emphatically, so I know that you know it. How do you measure that in your group?
So obviously, there's tons of data and analytics and metrics out there. Number one, first and foremost, is in-store retention based on trying to increase lease penetration, so that allows people to get into a new car sooner.
Correct.
We built an entire department around that.
You have a retention department.
We have a retention department across the group that's branded specifically within every store. And so, because here's the deal, my job primarily, and marketing wears a lot of different hats in our company, but
Swiss Army knife of sorts, right? Because you're the computer guy, it means you're IT, right? Because you work on a computer, so you know how to fix them.
We have IT,
right?
but I help our IT guys communicate what they're trying to do with the car guys. I can speak car.
That's right. I speak car, I speak data, so I put the two together and try to help both sides.
Exactly. So I'm sort of this collaborative influencer between departments,
right,
which I love.
Translate.
Because we're moving things along.
Yeah, which is awesome.
But marketing, primarily my job is to create opportunities for the dealership to grow business. And I don't really care how that comes. And I understand that the cost associated with keeping a customer is much, much less than trying to gain a new one. We got to do both.
But you know that better than most, though, because you're the marketing director. So
you
see that, Eric. You say to yourself, man, $650 a sold car is going to bankrupt me. But this guy just referred 3 people out of the web here, and now he's worth, it cost me $600. But now those 3 acquisitions cost me 0, so now I've got 3 for $600. Now I'm at $200. That's math that can work for you. Do you find yourself spending less in marketing as your retention gets better, or no, you see no reason to slow the train down and just keep the marketing going?
It's not less, it's different.
Okay.
And I'll explain
that.
It. So I can't share our cost per car sold because it would make everybody mad.
That's all right. That's right. Let me guess. It's below $650, which is the national average.
Thankfully, it's very much below $650.
All right.
I probably wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't.
Well, look, man, there's plenty of marketing directors who will keep their seats after watching this at $650. So it's not that.
And look, man, I've got tough brands. I mean, that doesn't. There's brands that cost more than others, and there's expectations on the manufacturer. We've got some ultra exotic luxury brands and things. Yeah, you're not spending a couple $100 a copy to sell.
But you're only going to sell 17 Porsches a year, right? So it costs what it costs. You're only going to sell 17 to 20. So I get it.
So it's but overall, I mean, so what happens is first of all, going back to your question about retention. So we're always looking at pump ins and pump outs, market share, competitive data. We subscribe to the registration data. So every month, so we don't wait for Urban Science market master data. No, because it's 2 months behind based on registration. So we purchase it directly from DOT or.
Is that a pretty large expense? I mean, for dealers who wouldn't know how to do that or where to go?
I have no idea. I've never asked, and nobody's ever. Whatever the expense is,
no one cares, right?
Because we have our hands on that data in real time.
Exactly.
And pretty much real time.
And you'll use it to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And we use it to determine, when we're number one for a brand in a market, which we are for several. We know we have a bullseye on our back, and
because the OEM's going to all the other stores, going, look at Johnson, they're into it, man. They're selling all these units. What are you going to do to keep up with Johnson? Instead of just giving Johnson more cars and being quiet manufacturer, he's got to.
It's like, hey, we need to take all these other cars.
Yeah.
So we try, but ultimately, it's like, we know that, once you get to number one, it's easy to get there, it's hard to keep it, right?
Agreed.
So I won't say it's easy to get there, everything's hard, but once you're there, keeping it
it's harder than getting there, in my opinion.
It's hard, man.
Yeah.
And we know that, and so we never rest. But when we are doing these other things, it allows us to shift the focus on our marketing. So a couple ways that we can do that. One is, we look at, so first of all, we don't do TV. We do no TV.
Zero.
No TV.
How many stores in the brand?
I have 8 stores.
You have 8 stores in the brand.
8 locations.
8 locations. Zero TV
Zero
for all
TV.
stores.
Correct. I have not done. I was going to say I haven't done any TV since I've been there 4 years. We did a little bit of TV in 15 for about 2 months.
Let me ask why. Was it just...
Well, it was a specific brand that is a new brand.
Right.
That had extra co-op.
Right.
And I needed to do
But
something.
you needed to brand the store. You just acquired it, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, hey guys, we got to let people know we have it.
Yeah, new point, new market, new brand.
Message to screen,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned. Spend money everywhere.
Right.
For the first 2 months.
But a couple months.
Yeah, that's it
That's
though.
it,
Don't
yeah.
get crazy.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
you've never gone back.
No, and we've been number one ever since for that.
All right, so that's TV. Radio?
Radio. So the only radio we do is a traffic sponsor.
So all we do with our things.
It's across eight channels. We've been doing it for years. I brand 2 stores with it. I can co-op both of them, and it's fresh messaging every month, and it's relevant.
All about what's going on for those 2 brands.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes to co-op, one I like to ask you, because you're a marketing director, so you have to hear this. Do you ever get tired of hearing, yeah, but it's co-opable? Eric, like just sign here, do this, right? Because it's co-opable. Yeah. Do you ever get tired of hearing that? And do you want to give people just a quick education on how co-op funds work? It's not just some magic pile of money that's put in your account for you to spend at will.
No. I mean, look, I will say this. Like, I appreciate the fact that vendors create and try to make it as easy as possible to submit for co-op and pre-approval and everything else, because when you got multiple brands that offer co-op, you have multiple co-op guidelines,
sure,
what they'll approve, what they like, what they don't, and it's almost a full-time job to keep up with it, and we actually, I share the responsibility of managing and making sure that we optimize co-op. If we get it, we're using it 100% every time.
Agreed.
But
it's the reason you sign up for products is because they're co-opable?
Absolutely not.
No, right? That feels weird.
Insane, because then if I did, I would have a lot of really ineffective display advertising out there, right? So it's like, oh, you can display or social or this and all that.
Yeah, it's all co-opable. Don't worry about it, dude.
Yeah,
it's all co-opable.
It's crazy. So we look at things through a lot of different lenses, but one, and I might get a little bit off topic, but
that's all right.
Everybody's talking about attribution, and some people are anti multi-attribution and anti this particular company or that particular company. At the end of the day, we used to know what first click gave us or last click gave us, and we're missing the whole middle of the story. So,
but hold on, really fast on attribution, because you're talking to someone who may be classified, if you ask anyone in this office, probably classified as anti. Only anti because I don't believe the vendor can sell a car. So me coming in and saying, reunion marketing failed because I sold 10 less units, that doesn't seem fair to the vendor because salesmen sell cars. Are you taking it to that level? Do you tie it all the way back to the sale of a car?
We look at influence.
Okay.
And you are connecting dots with this. It's not you can't.
There's no black and white science here, right?
You can't say like, oh, and that's what we were doing before. Like you look at CRM, pull an internet lead, closing ratio report, and you're like, I spent X, I sold 4.
I'm gonna cancel because I didn't do this. That's it.
And I cannot emphasize how wrong those reports are. It's incredibly wrong.
So last click is extremely wrong.
Yes,
but first click has its
so there
problems,
are situations,
right?
yeah. There's situations where we see like first click, a guy or a girl, did this, and they bought a car. But by and large, and I don't even want the pretty dashboard. I want to get into the ugly pages of data and look at it. And I do. They let me. And I love it because you see that, are you seriously kidding me? This person did 47 things before they bought a car. 47. A lot of them do 25, 28.
So you are seeing in your own data this idea, the Google idea, right? The 17 touch points in 60 days. You're seeing it come out in your data.
Absolutely. And so I can see on a line that matches back to an actually sold car, everything that they did. And how many of those things were anonymous to me In other words, no call, no click, no text, no lead form.
There was no way to find out.
They just interacted with my inventory somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a Google ad, maybe it was
AutoTraderCars.com.
Yeah,
Are you finding cross-shopping on your reports? Because those three vendors would lead dealers to believe that customers only look at one of their sites, not each one of their sites. Is that possible that a consumer would go to 17 sites and not hit AutoTraderCars.com car groups?
So it varies. It actually varies. And so,
because you see it.
And part of it though really still comes down to the data itself. Because some of these vendors are more transparent with their data than others.
Okay.
So if the services that we use to help us build this multi-attribution report, if they're not getting raw data directly from the admins, the cars.com, the car viewers or whatever, then what they're able to give me is only limited to what they can match back. And so it's not, again, like
data's as good as it's provided.
Yeah, but even with transparent data, like it's not 100% perfect match back. But I can tell a story with it.
But you're using it as a guide, right?
Yeah,
You're not sitting here saying, guys, we have to follow what this report says. That wouldn't make any sense.
No.
It's the Moneyball thing. I'm a huge baseball fan.
Okay.
Right? So Moneyball. The idea that there's a guy who looks at analytics, and then there's a guy down the floor who's the actual scout, the actual sales manager who sees it. Is that part of your world? Does marketing come down to the floor and talk with the people at the floor to see what's going on with the sales process, to investigate why deals weren't closed?
Yeah, and that's primarily my role. So I've got guys on my team that are in the data. I love to get into it as well because I'm just nerdy like that.
So am I.
But I talk car.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the sales meetings. I'm meeting with the GMs. I'm meeting with the sales managers. I'm going out to all of our different stores, and we're collaborating. We're coming up with strategy, pretty much based on what I bring them and saying, listen, this is what works. I know you might think this, but just follow my lead on this. Let's do this and see what happens. And we're number one.
Right.
And then we're number one again. And we just continue to grow that way. And so I think, it took some time, but I've built their trust. Yeah. And they sort of let us market and we let them sell. And so vendors don't bother my stores. They try, but the receptionist funnel right to me. My phone stays on Do Not Disturb. Yeah. And if
so no phone actually hits you.
No.
Nothing actually gets to you.
If they get my cell phone, then I'm a client.
Right.
But other than that, I will check my voicemail when I can, and I will return the calls I need to.
Well, I promise not to bother you now that I have it, because you're not a client of mine, but I won't bother you.
No,
I'm not going to bother you. You know what I mean? Maybe you will be a client, maybe you won't, but I'm not going to bother you with it, because look, dude, I use a Google Voice number, okay? Mm-hmm. No one even has my real cell phone number.
Nice.
Because when this whole thing's over, I cut that line loose and move on with my life. Let me ask you though, when you talk about the vendors and how they interact with you and your stores, do you put expectations out there with vendors when you bring them on board that this is what we expect, this is how we do business, and is it always followed? Is it something that you will cancel a vendor over not following guidelines and expectations, bothering stores, unannounced visits? Like, how far do you take that discussion?
So we do set very very clear expectations from the beginning, and I explain to them that we're a hard sell to begin with because I've been, I said before, 20 something years in the business. So I do the research. I collaborate with guys like Dave at Reunion. I read what you're putting out there and watch what you're putting out there, and I love the industry and I love the information and I study it. Yeah. And again, kind of nerd like that. Right. But with these vendors, like I can automatically cut through a lot of the clutter. Sure. People always ask me, you go into digital this and NADA and all that stuff, and I don't do any of it. I used to, but I don't anymore because they all come to us. They all want to work with us.
That's the whole point of the Car Biz Chronicles, is because we've been watching over the last 5 years this deterioration of attendance at these shows. And look, as a young company, you think that's where you need to go to get your name out there, etc. To be honest with you, it's never done a damn thing for us. All I've done is waste money year over year on these stupid things. Yeah. That's why I did this, right? Because I want to bring the message, as you said, directly to the dealer. But you had a post recently on LinkedIn that one of your managers received, basically, which was someone burning down the marketing house that you had built, saying, that sucks, let me show you how to do it better. And you came online and you kind of had this sort of no BS approach to that. How often do you see, because I said it in my reply to you, I'd like to say that's not common, damn it, man, it's becoming extremely common. What was your advice to that vendor?
So,
and did you talk to them directly? Because I only saw the post, and I don't remember in the post that you had said you spoke to that vendor. I feel like you just X'd them right after you listened about it.
Yeah, so it's funny because, first of all, like we kind of all have a pretty big reach on LinkedIn in our space.
Yeah.
And so I assume that any vendor worth their weight has also
look at your LinkedIn page.
They're going to see it.
Yeah.
And I put that out there, and I haven't looked back at the post because that was just the other day.
Yeah.
I haven't looked back at it lately, but I don't think they ever responded or reached out to me about it. And I kind of expected them to. I did send them an email, just basically direct. I didn't want to take my time. I'm too busy to call them and try to tell them what they did wrong.
You're not here to run their business for them, dude.
Yeah, don't try to, and don't even give them an opportunity to try to sell me in a different way either.
Right.
Because they will. They'll probably try.
Right. This was just a call to tell you you're out of line, and that's it. I'm good.
Just an email. Saying, look, man, there's no way, as long as I'm here, that we'll ever do business with you. And
so you can just take these 8 stores off your list.
Yeah,
internally, didn't bother.
Don't even bother.
It's a waste.
And then also, that particular vendor, I mean, we've got a great relationship with. We've been familiar with some of the things that have been wrongly said about what they're doing, and so I let them know what's going on too. And I believe they had a conversation with that guy, but I haven't circled back around to
sure.
find out.
And that's kind of how that all goes with the vendor part of it. And one of the things that you talked a lot about was, and it's kind of the same topic for me, it's this idea of disruption, of new tech that's coming in. But it's something you also say, which I really struggle with personally, which is I wrote it down, embrace tech through the eyes of the consumer. And I wrote, my note underneath is, this is tough for me because, like you, I'm 20 plus years. You and I don't buy cars the way that Joe and Marie buy cars. Mm-hmm. You and I buy cars the easiest way possible. My wife will tell you she's never actually set foot in a dealership. She's bought 3 brand new cars and she's never gone anywhere but her own house. How is it that you're able to do that from your position? How do you view things through the customer's eyes? Because again, I can't. I don't see it that much.
We literally have to stop everything. My team and I will stop everything and say out loud, okay, let's, for the rest of the day, go into customer mode. We link up to the big screen and we go through our websites one by one, we go through our mobile sites one by one, and we really walk through. If you wanted to schedule service on our mobile website at Subaru right now, go. And then we look at it and say, okay, where can we reduce a click or two? Or where can we move this up above the fold here? Why is this text us button overlapping this other thing you need to X out in order to see the button to submit your schedule online thing?
Right.
Like, how in the hell did that happen?
Get car now on the phone.
Yeah, and so,
on the phone.
And these things happen, and some kind of code thing changes, and all of a sudden something moves or shifts, and unless we're staying in that mode of going all in on the customer, because we can't wait for a customer to tell us a problem. If the customer tells us a problem,
it's already too
or
late.
if a manager tells us a problem, because our stores are our clients.
Yeah.
In my
because you're the marketing partner.
I'm the guy. So if something's not working right for them to do their job,
on you.
I'm letting them down, and I take that personally. And because it's their livelihood, it's all the people that relies on them in their store, it's their livelihoods, and so I take it very seriously. But we literally have to say out loud, okay, we're a customer now, we're buying a car now, we're servicing a car now. Stop thinking about it like a dealer. Okay. And that's where I think it's easy, because there's so many vendors, there's so many great opportunities and great services out there for us to improve what we're trying to do. But if we are only looking at them or for them as to how they're going to help us as a dealer make more money, retain more customers, whatever. If they're only going to help us, and that's how we're looking at them, we're going to miss the right things to prioritize.
The real story.
Yeah.
The real story.
And we're going to chase shiny objects because there's so many great. They're great presentations.
Everyone's a great salesperson.
The websites, everybody's website's cool. Yeah. You're like, man.
That's the first thing they hire is the sales team.
They start talking about, nerdy analytics and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, And so, and so I really do. Like, sometimes I get a little bit over eager and I'm like, okay, hold on. This sounds cool for me in my little marketing world, but does anybody in the stores that's going to help them? Is going to help any of my customers? And thankfully, my team sometimes will, because I get really excited about technology, and sometimes my team's like, okay, Eric, calm down. We can't roll this out group wide by Friday. Like, let's talk about it a little bit.
And do you, when you do take on new things, do you try to do a store at a time? Or are you somebody who says if good for one, good for all?
So that varies a little bit too. There have been a couple of things that I've rolled out group wide just right off the bat. Interestingly enough, Carnell is who kind of hooked us up with this, and Carnell was one of them. Kerry Cave came in, and Kerry and I went back when he was at.
You've known him since the Lexus days.
Yeah,
Atlanta, right?
When he was down at Hennessy, and he just, I didn't know he was coming, and I don't do drop-ins either. I mean, the receptionist called me and said, "Hey, there's a guy here that says he knows you." So I'm like, I know that name, but it's
how often do you get that page?
Yeah.
I know Eric. I promise. Bring him on downstairs.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I go up there and I'm like, I'm walking up. I'm like, God, kind of looks familiar, and then he's like, Kerry Cave. I'm like, man, I know you, but I don't know how I know you. And so we start talking. So he makes it back to the cave, the marketing cave.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there talking, and we get to figure out where the history was. I turn around, and I have there's a method to the madness of my filing. And
that's what everyone was filing.
I know I flash through some papers, and I'm like, this one. And I turn around, and it was an article about him when he was at Lexus that I had printed out to save, and I don't even remember why I saved it. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, dude, I know you. He's like, here's the thing, I saved this because I wanted to get in touch with you. So he's like, yeah, I'm at Cardinal, blah, blah, blah. He showed me, I was a contact at once customer at the time.
Oh boy.
And so
that's carburetor fuel injection right there.
Now you see how I sign them. I'm like, I want every store where I'll sign. I'll cancel the other thing later. That's the one of the very few only things that I've signed up.
Yeah, see, now my company doesn't have flashy tech. The best thing I do in tech is Microsoft Excel. So there's nothing flashy about what I do. Right. I can't get you excited, but maybe in energy we can. One of the last things that I want to talk to you about, because we're kind of coming up against it, and I don't want to take too much of your time. You talk about disruption. That word I feel it feels overused right now. I feel like everyone's using it to prove their point. But you talk about it in such a way that it's be aware of it, but don't necessarily run from it or to it, is kind of how I took it from you. What is your view on the newest kind of tech disruption that dealers need to keep their eye out for? I mean, we call it innovation, but I mean, it's technology still and disruption. What do they need to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, so it's about creating a seamless or frictionless customer experience. And it goes back to everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
How do we differentiate ourselves? How do we look at things through the eyes of the customer? And then how do we help them accomplish what they're trying to accomplish as easy as possible?
Yeah.
And stop trying to box them into our way. And that's really what so many dealers run up against is the customer comes in and they've maybe taken themselves, if there's 10 steps in a car buying process, however many there are.
Let's just call it 10.
But yeah, they come to you at 7, and as soon as you get a chance to speak with them, you bring them back to 3.
Correct.
That's frustrating.
Right.
They don't have time for it. They don't want to deal with it. They want everything seamless. And so,
because like you and I talked about, customer emails you. They want to email you and email you and email you.
Yeah.
And you've got a salesperson who just can't get out of their own way and says, yeah, but just call me. This would be easier. Just call me.
No.
They would have already done that.
Right.
Exactly. If they wanted to call you, they would have done that.
Or they come in on a text and nobody responds with a text. They call them. Like, no, don't call me. I'm texting. I'm at work. I can't talk on the phone.
Right.
And so that you're starting out the opportunity of trying to earn their business and show them how great you are.
The wrong way.
You can't even listen.
The wrong way.
And so,
how do you guys deal with digital retail then? I know that's the biggest kind of topic right now.
It is.
To me, it's so silly because digital retail is just a word tech companies came up with to sell the tech. The idea of making it easier for the customer, Eric, you've been doing that your whole career. You've delivered cars to people's homes. Mm-hmm. You've taken vehicles back that weren't good. You've allowed customers to buy a car without setting foot in your dealership. So how do you view the word digital retail today? What does it mean to you?
So it's an attempt by the manufacturers, by the vendors, by the website providers, and by the finance arms to all come together and work nicely with each other. Because what the process up till now has been largely pieced together.
Silent.
And you still have to, sign a piece of paper, and fax it back or FedEx it back.
Or some people have you can only sign digital for 9 out of 12 documents. They're going to be signed by hand.
Right.
Some of that's the state.
It is.
They got to get out of their own way on some of that.
Yeah. So there's still, some ways to go with it, but ultimately, it's trying to put it in a nice shiny package that works well for the customer. It automatically integrates in the incentives so that we can show them realistic pricing. Because that's the other thing is people, typically most people that I know that are not paying cash for a car, they're shopping on a budget. And it might not be all the way up to what they can afford, but it's all the way up to what they want to afford.
Correct.
And so they start out, I'm going to spend $400 a month on a car. And they go shopping for cars, and it's $31,998.
Isn't that $400 a month?
Yeah. And
isn't that customer math?
Yeah, and there's some crappy payment calculator on there that's using
0% doesn't even have a pre-filled percentage on it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just just providing the tools to create that flow of data in a realistic way that's VIN specific, payment specific, incentive specific, and timely. That's the key piece.
But let me ask you, will your team, look, it's a sin to sell a car over the phone. Okay, it's a sin to give customer an idea of trade before they show up to a dealership. It's all these things have been sins for 25 years. Does your store at a store level, do they follow the same thought process as you as the marketing director? That means make it frictionless, or is that part of what's the real work in progress? Is trying to get store level personnel to buy into the marketing message of frictionless?
Yeah, well, it definitely takes a concerted effort with training. So
Top
we have
down.
to go. We have to go in and it's sometimes forced.
Yeah.
Which we thankfully, I have the ability to force those things on with, the owner, the COO.
So you have their backing when you make these sort of moves.
Yeah. When we decide we're going to do something, like I get buy-in on it, and sometimes we have to drag the rest of the store along with it. But at the end of the day, like with digital retailing right now, everybody's talking about it, everybody's trying it. We've probably been doing it for 3 years. And at the end of the day, it's, at our highest volume store, it's 8-9 customers a month that want to buy a car that way. So it's not ready yet.
Right, highest volume. What's that peak number for that highest volume store? Units sold.
400.
400.
Yeah.
You just gave me 8 of 400.
Yeah. So again, like everybody's talking
0.005 of it.
Right.
But like this, people make me feel like the tidal wave's coming, and I still don't think that it's even started out in the ocean yet. I still think it's trying to find its way.
It is.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. And again, I think it will come. But 20 years ago we were brokering cars online, and
people were questioning why it was your car and not theirs.
We were doing the same thing 20 years ago, and again, we're doing it nationally, and we cap out at 2,500 cars a month. Selling every brand in every market across the country. And people still aren't ready to commit to doing things that way.
Yeah, I had a Honda store in California doing 800 cars a month. It was less than 1%.
Yeah.
We're finalizing online, and they were in what I refer to as tech millennial hell out in Silicon Valley, for God's sakes, and we still only had less than 5%.
Yeah. But how can we allow people to schedule service easily?
Right.
Get loaner cars.
Well, I'd like to see an alternative to X time.
Yeah.
Just on the outside, because there's no data. I lose all my data on those clicks, what my customer does when they get into that tool. That's another tool I wish.
That's a big one that we've fought that battle with, and there's pros and cons to those service online scheduling systems right now, but that's a big con. But ultimately, that's an opportunity to create a frictionless process with scheduling service. RedCap's doing a great job with that. We're looking at them.
And that's part of your retention, though, right? Is the ability to have the service.
Absolutely.
I did
gotta retain service.
My podcast I went live earlier in the week was with a fixed ops guy, a young man, Owen Moon, and he talked about basically 17 out of 100 customers will return to the service department where they bought their car, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's a churn number one can't deal with. Do you guys make that a focus of when you sell the car, service handoff? Like, do you guys really put that into the process to work on that retention?
Yeah, we have a lot of efforts based on, when you buy a car, we're hopefully scheduling your first service visit at the point of sale.
Yeah, 3 months after.
Yeah, and then, with some of our brands, some of the first services are free, and so why wouldn't you do those? But even with them being free, sometimes, we might max out at 65 or 70% of
even
redemption on those. Yeah, and so, and some of it is if people live too far away, we sell out of market sometimes, and I get it. But at the end of the day, we need to do everything possible to make sure we're communicating with that customer multiple times in multiple ways to make sure that they're getting the message that their car's due for service. We're here for them. Here's a coupon.
Stay in your front. Stay in your front.
Here's the advantages of servicing with the dealer. Because look, at the end of the day, we're competing with independents. We're competing with mom and pops. Everybody's out for our customer, and out of all of them, we're the most expensive.
Right.
And there's a reason for it. I mean, we have the support of the manufacturer. When something goes wrong with a car and there's issues we can't handle, we can call the manufacturer in to help us advise on what to do with that car.
Right.
And
because you built those relationships.
Yeah, and we as the franchise dealer, we're the only people that can do that.
Correct. Yeah, independents can.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, we look at it. It's a full ecosystem. If I can bring them back in for service, that's my best sales opportunity.
Always.
And that's why we built the retention product or the retention departments around service.
A retention department. Well, that kind of brings me to the close here. And at the close, I'd like to get into a couple of takeaways. So I'll give you mine and hope that I don't duplicate yours. A couple of the things. One, dealers, if you can afford it or make the time for it, get a retention department. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it can be a lot of value to you. I also have down here, if I can read my own writing some of these times, the registration data that you were talking about, getting it directly from your Department of Transportation, your area. I advise dealers to go ask. Go find out if you can get this data. And to your point, if it's not going to be back 45 days, then its value far exceeds its actual price. And the final part that I have is just don't box the customer in. Like you were saying, don't say to them, well, yeah, you can text us, call us, or email us, but if you do any of the above that isn't a call, we're going to make you call us.
Yeah.
So you should just call us
right
out of the gate. So those are my takeaways. What do you have that you want to make sure in this almost hour conversation, and there's a lot of information here, what do dealers have to take away from the last hour as far as you see?
Focus on differentiation. Embrace all of the technology. There's tons of really great startup companies that are evolving into our space. Don't look at everyone as a shiny object. Take a look at what they offer, but take a look at it through the eyes of the customer and not just for how it will benefit the dealership. Without the customer, the dealership is nothing. Think about what you can do with that customer to make them a customer for life.
With the gifts, lanyard.
Lanyard.
Yeah.
Read Purple Goldfish. It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, Purple Goldfish,
Yeah.
a little name drop. We like
Yeah.
it. We'll take it. Well, Eric, man, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Everybody, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time.